But
Well,
I don't remember what it was.
I just thought, so that's the final 6/30/19, so I just thought, so that you could see the different accounts where our revenues were greater than what we originally estimated.
Oh, okay, so these are surpluses.
Yes, and those are the accounts really with balances over 10, that were
Okay.
greater than 10,000.
Okay, because I was actually looking, I sort of thought it was that, but then I was like, well, gee, they're not all highlighted. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly. Okay, so these are surpluses for the end of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then this is our revenue account this month. So this revenue at the end of the year, the surplus, goes back in the general fund?
Correct.
Okay. And we have that accounting here as well, right?
Yes.
Shall we? Let's look at that. Okay, so that's this one. So this is nice. I don't think you've given this to us before in this way, have you, that I recall?
I was
It's
giving
useful.
some updates during the 18-19 fiscal year.
Yeah,
But
okay.
this is like an end of year.
Yeah. All right, so we have essentially 6 million in there, give or take a few thousand, right?
Correct.
But we're well below our 15%.
Well, so when we go to the rating agencies for credits that are our size, what they're really looking for is 15%.
Yeah.
That's what we would need in order to get an upgrade. And so that's why I'm noting it on here, just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that was good.
And so, based on the operating results that I've highlighted here for you, we would be at a little over 8% of our total, our current fiscal year budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a good year. Our revenues were greater than we projected by $237,446. In addition to that, that's without using contingencies. I mean, not contingency, the applied fund balance of $675,000. And then on the expenditure side, we had, over $400,000 left over. So in the calculation, you see our beginning fund balance, what our revenues were, what our expenditures were. We add back in, because we didn't use the, we didn't need to use the fund balance applied, and then we subtract out the fund balance that we applied to this year's budget.
Okay.
So we did very well. It's good timing for us, considering that we're looking at bonding for the school projects, because those are going to be larger amounts than we have historically been bonding in any one year. So having a good year of the fund balance growth will be good to that end. So that'll be looked upon favorably by the credit rating agency when we go for our annual
Bonding.
update.
Yep.
So
of July 1st, 2018, we were 4.7 million.
correct.
And now we're at 5.9.
Yes.
That's nice. That's very special. I like that.
So,
We just got to keep going in that direction. Excellent. Thank you for this.
Yep.
It's helpful. Any other questions of Anna before we move on?
So I'll just point out, and I apologize, I didn't print it for you for this evening, but on the incurred but not reported claims for 6/30/19, I am pleased to say that we had nothing hit our account in the month of September.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
So I believe at the end of August, we were at about $701,000. So, 700, yes, a little over 700, let's just say a little over 700,000. And then I did get information from our carrier with their projected IBNR, and the estimate that I was using, was about $9,000 off from what they gave us. They finally gave us the estimate. So I was a little
That's good.
pleased about
You
that,
should
to be, targeted. But the good thing is, we're under that. We were looking at close to $900,000, and we're just a little over 700 at this point. So that's good. And in addition, the report that they sent me at the end of September, I noticed that it looks to me like they're pushing to get all of our outstanding claims processed on their end, because sometimes there is quite a lag. And there was actually, looked to me like a credit balance at the bottom of that. I haven't received an answer, because I'm looking at, we should be getting some, something back from them for that. It was a little over 20,000. So hopefully I'll get resolution to that soon, and we won't see any more hits. But I looked at that as finally some positive news.
Good, thanks. I'm glad you brought that up too, because you usually have that in the packet.
Well, Mr. Schultz brought it up under, so that's what kind of jogged my memory.
He can do that to you.
So,
One note I had for myself, I was going to ask this of Mark, but he's not here. Do you have any status on the lawsuit with the Board of Ed, where that all is? Have we settled that out? What's going on with that?
I do know on a piece there was an agreed upon amount, but we haven't paid it yet because it's the other party that's holding it up. And what that amount was, we had sufficient fund, if you remember, we set aside some end of year remaining funds from the Board of Ed, and there were sufficient funds in that balance to pay that amount. So at this point, we're okay, but it just hasn't been totally finalized yet.
Okay, so we're not holding up the ball. It's the other
Not
party.
at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right, so do we have any expectation when this will be resolved? No.
I mean,
Oh, okay, that's all right. I just thought you might have some sense of it.
no.
It's been hanging out there. It'd be nice to bring it to closure.
So I just had a thought about that. Perhaps next month, or hopefully next month, when Mr. Newton gives his report, maybe we can have some detail on that, and we may have to go into executive session on that if there's some confidential information, but it would be good to know exactly what that status is. As I recall, there were various parts to the lawsuit, and so I think we need to be updated. It would be about time. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks, Ann.
Sure.
Okay, that takes us to new business. First item is Board of Finance bylaws discussion amendment vote. I think we all emailed our responses
You
to you.
did.
Yes.
Yes, we received everyone voting on it, so we're good on the bylaws.
Okay, so have they been actually updated then with this language?
I believe that when I sent out the email, I included the update, so I can, finalize it.
Okay.
And use, I guess, tonight's date for the update date, because I'll put that on there.
That sounds good to me. Okay, next item is our special
One thought, Lisa.
Sure.
Maybe we should just make a point in the record that all the votes were taken, and that we should probably tally the vote, or read that vote into the record for tonight's meeting.
I can do that. Do you
Because,
want
I
the
mean,
date
it
that
all
everyone
happened.
voted?
We did that by way of email.
And I'll give you the copy.
But-
Give me that and I'll tell
but
you.
that
Okay.
should
You
be,
need some kind of formal
Right.
motion. that
so we
you're-
should do it verbally also here.
Right,
Yes.
so, Ian Santoro, September 12th, Camille Alberti, September 26th, John Birmingham, September 27th, Lisa Picarazzi, September 27th, Bill Weber, October 8th, and Jason Pizzaglia, October 9th.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, do we have to take any further action on that?
No, as long
Okay.
as it's
Just
shown
wanna
that
make
it was approved and
Yep.
all the members voted and what that record was.
And technically, the last one was voted, the last vote was received today.
Right.
So what goes into the record? The actual emails of where we said I approve?
That's
This
what
is
I'm
gonna be
giving you.
attached.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You can make a motion that everybody voted to the affirmative and that to see attached, if you would feel better, so there'd be something in the record in the actual.
Okay, let's do
I,
that.
I think Karen's
Yeah,
suggesting that
yes.
we actually
Like
make a
vote.
motion.
Karen's
Yes,
usually
that's
on her
fine.
game.
Yes, she
Fine,
is.
yeah.
This is gonna get attached,
Yeah.
and then somebody's gonna say, I didn't
There's
see
nothing to
this.
attach
Attach
it
it to.
to.
They
Okay,
don't know
yes.
where it's coming on here, so if you say that, a motion, a motion was made at the last meeting, to refresh people.
Okay,
And then the vote was taken, by email, and everyone voted, and please see the attached, they voted for the affirmative to make the changes, as presented at the last meeting.
so
Okay.
you got that, Ann? You wanna
Yes, because
try
the
it?
vote, because the, well, I'm
Take a
just looking,
stab.
just give me a moment here, the way the motion read before, that the voting result shall be announced and read into the record at the next regular meeting of the board. So, I
We
think
just
we
did
just
that.
did that. So, I think we're okay, that, what would our motion be? I mean,
Well, I think as long as we record that in the minutes, and somebody pick up the minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so if we're done with that, our next item is a special appropriation, $69,000 in CNRE funds, COA.
Commission on Aging.
Right, I was thinking CYA, and that's not good. 5310 for a bus grant.
Okay, so Ms. Wilson is here this evening. She can go over this for you. We've had these in the past, and so a portion of it will be through a DOT 5310 bus grant, which we're expecting $55,200, and then the town is required to put up the remaining funds, which in this case is $13,800.
Thank you. Hi, Kathy.
Hello. So I wrote the grant. This is the third grant that I've written to the DOT for the 5310 grant. We received approval for getting a new vehicle. That vehicle will likely go into operation. It's usually the summer, so it'd be 2020 that would come in. So it's the maximum for this particular style of vehicle is $69,000. It's an 80-20 split. And I've also indicated to the Board of Selectmen that if there are some items that we want to add on to it that go over the $69,000, that the Powerhouse account would pay the difference, and that's what we did a couple of years ago. So this is more just a procedural and update for you that this is in the pipeline and it's coming along.
What's the current vehicle that's in use that this is replacing?
So we have three vehicles. We have two that are 2011s and one is a 2017. And the vehicle that we are going to pull out has 114,000 miles on it as of now, and we'll probably have a few more by the time the vehicle gets replaced.
So 114,000 on, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understood you, on the 2011?
Yes, there's two 2011 vehicles. The one that has the most mileage is the one that has 114,000.
Oh, that's coming out of circulation?
Yes.
That's the one with 114,000?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any salvage value related to that we can squeeze any money out of that? What do we do with the thing?
I give it to Mr. Braga and let him work it out.
And
So-
how does that go, Anna? Do we typically
Okay.
get some salvage value out of that?
So we have really been doing a good job at when something comes off, we use a public surplus auction venue. We put the vehicles out there and sell them at auction that way.
So we'll,
And that's what, and I do know that the last vehicle that came off, the Board of Ed is actually using it now. They needed something, so that was turned over to them.
okay.
But that would be, as far as I know, the plan for what we take off.
Okay. Ann?
Yeah, that may be a question for Joe Burgaw at some point, because I think the way this works, if I read your documentation correctly, the state has title to the vehicle. So at some point, when there's no useful life to it, which is at that point, I guess.
It's either 4 years or 100,000 miles.
Okay,
And then I believe it's after 4 years, the state comes off the
Okay.
lien. Yes. So
Okay.
it becomes town property.
So
we don't
then
have
it
to-
becomes
yeah,
town property,
right.
and then Joe can put it into that system of vehicles that he then sells off or whatever. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
They've really, we used to kind of let things sit there, but we've been really doing a much better job at unloading any equipment that comes offline.
Yeah.
Good. Questions from the board on this?
Yes.
I had one.
Go ahead.
Am I understanding this correctly, that we have to pay for the bus up front, and then we wait for the grant from the state?
That they want us to be prepared for that. It has not happened,
Yeah.
but they want us to be prepared in case it does happen.
Now, how long typically does that take for the
it-
grant money?
I don't know, because it hasn't happened, so I don't know. So the past two grants,
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correct, it works pretty good in term, rather
Yeah.
well in terms of us getting our funding, in a promptly, reasonably on this. So we're appropriating the full amount, we can go out, purchase, and then simultaneous be getting, the state grant funds in.
Is there any risk that we don't get the grant?
Well, we have a grant award letter.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. People tell you things, who knows?
Once, I mean.
Is there any record of any grant not going through after we've gotten a grant letter?
No.
No. Okay.
That's a good question though, Lisa, because when I look back 2 years ago when this exact vehicle came before us for a previous replacement, we had asked that question because the state was in such dire straits with their budget.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, everything's on the table when the state can't balance their budget, so it's a fair question. Just
Thanks.
because we have the award letter doesn't, until you get that check in hand, But I am comfortable with this process. I do have a couple of questions with regard to the accounting. So I remember 2 years, Kathy, when you came to us and you said that the vehicle that it would be replacing would go into auction and we would get some money. But we never saw an accounting of that after the fact. And I understand this might not be you, this might be Mr. Bergraw, which is fine. But what is the threshold of the dollar amount that that you have to come back to us and say we received $12,000 for this vehicle at auction? Can we make a motion to put it back into some account?
So what our process is for the vehicles and equipment that we sell, those funds go into there's a sale of vehicles account in CNRE. So that's where those funds go. And then if we have a reason to, purchase something, then that goes through the appropriations process. If you remember, we just went through that process for little over $15,000 of 3 pieces of equipment for public works, and the source of funds for those items was all from the sale of vehicles.
So that doesn't have to come back before us to designate what account it goes back into. That's all predetermined at that point to
We're
this
set up.
vehicle acquisition.
Sale of vehicles.
Sale of vehicle fund. So my question is, this brings me back to the accounting of it now, because now this motion before us is to appropriate funds and take the town's portion of $13,800 from Fund 32 account number town project allocations.
Right.
Is that the same account?
No, that's
So why aren't we pulling the funds from the fund that you just
That's
referenced?
a great question.
in this, you know what? Because this wasn't specifically a public works vehicle, and that's.
But the sale of the Commission on Aging vehicle that went to auction that we got dollars for, I think we were just told went into that account. So why aren't we pulling the funds?
Whatever would have been sold, yes, it would have.
So is there no money in that account from which to draw $13,800?
I would expect that there is, yes.
So why aren't we asking to get the funds out of that account instead of this town project allocations account?
Well, I recommended in this situation, I recommended using the town allocations account.
So do
For this
we
particular
have the
project.
ability then to say, let's not do this, let's pull it from,
Yeah, what's
the
your
sale-
basis for that? What was your basis for that decision?
I just felt that for this year, we did set aside funds for town projects. This is something that came up outside of the normal.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand what your thinking was.
Yeah.
I don't mean to have you feel like you're in the corner or anything.
No,
but
no.
I just didn't know why you made that decision.
Well, like I said, I just recommended, because we do set funds aside for town projects.
So I would be in favor of transparency, keeping the allocation to and from for this specific vehicle in the same account for transparency, so that when we ask for an accounting, how much money are we getting from the sale of vehicles at auction, and how much are you pulling out of it for these new requests? I would like to be able to see that accounting in one account, the debits and the credits, if you will. I'm a data geek.
Well, that's how we do, when we do receive funds for the sale of vehicles, it goes into a specific revenue account labeled sale of vehicles, and then, corresponding into the expenditure account.
So I think if I could add on to what you're saying, so last month, right when Joe came in and wanted the vehicle for, help me out, whatever the heck.
Well, 3 pieces of equipment.
3 pieces of equipment. We took that out of the
That's
sale
correct,
for the
yes.
vehicle.
We did,
account.
yes.
So can we just withdraw? I'd like to just make a recommendation that we withdraw from that account instead of this one. No problem, right?
No.
Okay, so let's do that.
Okay.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
If I could just see the totals in that account right now. I have
The
that
CNRE,
I
yeah,
have
that's a
the
great tool too that
CNRE,
you gave us, but I don't have it with me tonight.
Information. And if we can just compare, I wondered if that was behind some of your decision, like what your totals were in those 2 accounts.
The balances.
So,
We have been more regularly receiving funds for the sale of vehicles because, as I said, we're
retiring
we're
them.
using that tool, that online auction venue.
That's
So
great.
every couple or so months, we are continuing to get funding.
So we'll just need to know what account we're referring
Right.
to in our list here with an
Yeah.
account ID.
So the sale of vehicles account.
Right,
Okay,
so when we
which
read the
one?
motion, though, we
Yeah,
won't have the account number
Yes.
with us to read it. How would
Yes.
you like us to handle that? Can we backfit that in the minutes?
So, do you have that list with you?
I
Ann
do.
does? All right.
Yes.
You have the CNRE?
Yes. I have
You're on your game, girlfriend.
Yes, thank you, Ann.
document, everything.
I know. You need counseling, Ann, but still, you have the resources.
3208.
That's the revenue.
800,805,
That-
that's miscellaneous revenue sales.
Okay, but we're looking for the balance sheet account,
Ann's getting it. I mean, Anna.
right?
Yeah, this is just my total. Okay.
Guess who's making the motion, Ann?
Oh, boy, okay, and so what, and Anna, the balance in that fund, is that, am I reading that correctly? Let me just see,
But I
Go
would,
ahead.
there's probably,
This is, would need to be updated anyway
Yeah.
from your last.
I'm sure that'll be fine.
But there's at least 20 in there, and we're only looking to pull 13.8.
Okay.
work.
So there's more than not
Great.
less than that. Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up,
Fantastic.
Camille. It's a good point.
You're welcome.
Are you good with that? Okay.
You good with that,
Ann, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, so we will, let's see, we are going to, okay, move to appropriate $69,000 in CNRE Fund 32 for the purchase of a new 12-passenger and 2-wheelchair bus to be utilized at the senior center. Delivery expected between July to October 2020 to an account to be established, COA DOT 5310 bus as follows. $55,200 from the Connecticut Department of Transportation 5310 grant, and to transfer the town share in the amount of $13,800 from Fund 32 account number 3260-120-100-002, which is entitled Proceeds from the Sale of Vehicles. Please note this requires a town meeting.
Thank you, Ann.
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John.
Discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, just one further comment. When I look back at the request for board action 2 years ago, the language was the same, to an account to be established. I am going to assume that the account already exists since we did this 2 years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so maybe we should amend that motion to say
Just get rid of the word "to establish."
Yes, to an
Yes.
account titled.
Titles, okay, that's, so we,
Other discussion?
No.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Was
4-0.
it second? Sorry,
you.
was it seconded? Do we have a second?
I don't know.
Yeah.
we-
Oh,
John
I didn't hear,
seconded.
I didn't hear
Yeah,
John.
sorry,
Okay.
John seconded.
That's okay.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Old business. Is there any business?
See,
I knew that. You think I didn't know that? The next item on the agenda is the Board of Finance
Short
members'
meeting.
discussion of proposed budget process.
We can move to
Table it?
table it if you want
Well,
to have a record meeting at
Yeah, under,
55
under
minutes.
60 minutes.
you know why I think I want to do that? Because I like that Mike brought up some things about the charter that I think we should review.
We should soak on it.
That, I actually, Lisa, brought my charter.
Oh, Ann,
Because
Ann,
I brought the charter.
Ann, you have issues, but they're good issues. You brought the charter, you just have it hanging out on the kitchen table.
No, it's, because it does
'Cause you love
impact
reading
some
it.
of the things.
Yeah, so I'm gonna table this item after we've had a chance to brief ourselves on some of the remarks that have been offered by Mr. Schultz. We can discuss this, so I'd like to leave it on the agenda for next month. Thanks. Old business.
Oh, should we make a motion on that, though? Karen, do we need okay, fine, thanks.
No old business. Are there any folks from the public that wish to address the board? Anyone from the public? Board comments? Any comments from the board? Take a moment and soak, and you usually have something to share.
I would say that, let's see, let me just think. Yeah, I would just say that I'm looking forward to dealing with this issue of some potential improvements to the budget process. We'll talk about it more later, but just a general point about it is, just in reflecting my 2 years, definitely there's, I've noted that the agencies and the departments take their budgeting process very seriously, and I think do a good job. But there's always room for improvement.
Yep.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's time to just clean up a few things. And I actually had, written some notes, but nothing that I was thinking to be changed seemed difficult, or impossible, or a big hassle. So, and I think that it'll be nice, it'd be good to get some consensus on this, so.
Okay, so based on your comments, I do have a question, Ann.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the chairman of the Board of Finance discusses with the finance director what the agenda items are going to be. And we have no knowledge as a board of what that is going to be before we receive it. You seem to have knowledge that this is taking place.
Oh.
How is that happening?
Oh, I asked at the last meeting.
Okay.
That this
That this be
this
brought,
topic,
put-
yeah, I've actually
okay.
asked a couple of times, but this time I asked, and that's why it's on the agenda.
Okay, so do
Right.
you have a plan in place that you want to discuss?
That
You could maybe, I guess we can't share
So-
that beforehand, so in the interest of time,
Right.
if there's something that you've crafted that we could review before we reconvene, maybe it will go a
Yeah,
little
I mean,
faster.
actually, I thought that I could, reduce my notes to some brief